Do you? Yeah. Okay, cool. So, do you want us still to check it out once we get back up there? Or they got to make it Tuesday. Okay, weird. Sounds good. Thanks. Yeah. They got
Indiana, what's up, my guy? Man, I'm good, man. It's good to see you. Ooh. Blast from the past, my guy.
It's been a minute. I haven't been out here.
Well,
This would just being late in the year.
well, you got. Oh, I mean, look who y'all played. You know what I mean? So you gotta
This
see.
morning,
Well, you want to see how you stack up. You know, it's going into playoffs. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Things are nice.
It can be. It can be. Some days they're really nice. Some days they're less nice. I mean, they went to DC, play the Wizards here.
You're not supposed to play.
Pacers are what they've been ever since 2005 when I first started covering them. They are really good, this close. But there's always something.
Yeah.
You know, either a player jumps in the stands or team love. You know, there's, I don't know how many championships they lost on that.
And then there's just LeBron. How many years is the explanation of why
LeBron.
LeBron was in the East. Same reason why, anybody from the 90s played.
Oh, yeah. Listen, I'll never forget it. The Pacers were up 2-1, and they were at home against Miami for Game 4. I believe it was the East Finals. I believe it was. LeBron switched up. They were having trouble with David West.
Yeah.
So LeBron switches over and guards David West and completely eliminates him from the equation. LeBron goes for 48 and 9. And they win, and they win the series. And it's just like, you had him on the ropes, right?
Yeah. He just decides.
Yeah, he just has a different gear.
Academically, I'm very ready.
Nobody else can get.
I feel like
Sometimes a little anxious, like what's next, I don't know yet. But also really trying to enjoy what's next, you know? Like, my grandparents are coming from Brazil.
That's awesome. For graduation?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
But they get here like end of April-ish. Like,
Oh, wow. They're staying.
Oh, they're saying like 60 days.
Yeah.
But,
Just kind of surpassed it, right?
Right. And how are you going to go out and get out there and challenge LeBron's height and power?
Right. And you're still kind of on your way. You're a star, but you're rising.
They just had, they were showing a lot of the two buzzer beaters he had because just the other day. And I watched that one play against their team against the Predators. Paul George would be more of like, and obviously Joe, he's like, there's not too many people in his period of the league who were doing that.
Just when he decided he wanted to start with this. I wish we had a few more Stephensons in this league. That was so fun.
There are still people, every time there's an opening, there's one guy who tweets me something, or, assignments. They've been playing over the roster since the deadline. Because they traded James Flanders to Cleveland. They signed big guys to restricted 10 days. And that's available. I'm sure you can find him. He's close. He's available.
He's definitely available. I don't know if it's the kind of available you want.
Fair.
But he was something else for just a while.
Yeah.
What a player. But he made his mistakes were as amazing as his successes, his highlights.
That's true.
Wow.
Yeah.
He's like less talented version of Russell Westbrook.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
He's got that same level of gear.
I would say
good for myself, but also. But I really, you obviously saw it, I've been fascinated as time has gone on what people are like.
Nobody. Great. I think what's happened, to be honest with you, is that here's a fight that he takes turn against me. So now everybody completely understands why you think that's
That's also fair. That's 100% true.
Everybody's like, oh, my wrestler, because what? He just like feels related. Well, maybe they deserve it.
Yeah.
So.
There's also, I mean, but to your point, there is, I feel like an internal split now between us and not TV folks, but over TV analysts. You guys are TV folks. Now, it's tough to follow.
He didn't play that Miami game, so.
Guys are all big badass
It's getting that.
Mark, this Indiana team scored 162, and while certainly that's an outlier, it's not terribly far off of the type of offensive nights that they're capable of. What do you see about them that's going to be, a possession after possession threat?
Yeah, I mean, they apply constant pressure on your defense with their pace, and not only their pace up the floor, but their pace moving the ball in the half court. Their guys play with a lot of freedom and looseness in a good way. Their guys all play to the top end of their confidence levels, and that's in the water there. So they're one of the best teams in the league. Over the last couple months, they're going to be a really, really hard team in a playoff series. And they're a really, really hard team to prepare for. You can talk about, how the game's going to feel, but then it's different when you get out there. I thought we experienced that when we played them in Indiana. It took us a long time to get a grip on that game. So they're a really respected opponent by us.
What's we got? Left?
Yeah, so Coach Carlisle's been doing this for a while, and I just want to know your thoughts about what he's been able to do over the years and adapt and adjust as the game has changed. Sometimes the old school guys, they don't adapt as well as he has, but he's done pretty well with it.
It's a great point. It's his longevity, first of all. I mean, he's forgotten more about the NBA than anybody knows in the first place. When you think even back to his playing career, the teams he played on. But it's a great coaching point because Detroit back in the day, Indiana back in the day, there's like grinded out teams, and then when they won the championship in Dallas, that was like he was way ahead of his time with like this free-flowing offensive thing, not necessarily like with the pace up the floor, but the half-court pace and how deep they would go into the possessions, passing the ball. I think they called it flow game back then. That was like really, really ahead of the curve. That's one of the more creative and innovative things that came around at that time. And then in Indiana, I mean, from the minute his feet hit the ground there, they have had a very, very clear identity that's elevated their team performance. It's elevated the individual players that have been there. I think that's been a mark of what his teams have done over time. And he's uncomfortable to coach against. He's bold. He's unpredictable. He's creative. So obviously someone I have great respect for.
What else we got, guys? Just right, and then we'll go back.
Coach, just to piggyback on the conversation you had not too long ago about just adapting to Oklahoma City, coming from being a Massachusetts native, and, I can share that with you as well, but just talk about...
Where are you from?
I'm from Boston. I'm
Are
a
you
Boston
really?
native, yeah. My first season here in Oklahoma, so I guess my question is, how unique of an experience has that been, and did you ever think that it would be this quickly where you're able to guide this team to their most successful, regular season, that the franchise ever seen?
Well, how's it going for you? You have more of an attitude. I've been here 11 years. I've lived here longer now than anywhere else in my life other than Massachusetts.
It's different. It's different for sure. But I always tell people it's a good different. It's a good difference. It's a nice change of pace, I say.
Yeah, I mean the lack of traffic is great, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there's not like
Completely
construction
different.
just
Yeah.
popping up everywhere.
Yeah.
That's nice.
And 7 days a week. Yeah, you don't have that here. That's true.
People are nicer.
Yes, yeah, that's a part.
No
of getting
snow
used to.
plows or salt trucks though.
No,
So when it
yeah.
snows, everyone just waits for the snow to melt,
The
which
city shuts
I would say
down.
is one of my larger complaints. In Massachusetts, you're used to the maintenance of the roads being really good.
I
So.
guess a bit from a basketball standpoint, I guess. For what you've been able to.
Yeah,
pull
yeah,
off
we're
this
not
year.
talking about that here. We're talking about the snow trucks. So.
I guess the obvious injury question, Alex and Jalen Williams, where do they stand?
Yeah, still waiting.
Still
We'll
waiting.
see how they go. We want to make sure we want to go through the whole pregame before we rule them in or out.
Anybody else? Joel in the back.
Mark, I know the sample's not large, but the lineup with Chet and Hartenstein, specifically without either of Shea and J-Dub, like, what have you gotten from that sample? Are you encouraged by what they can do with sort of reserves surrounding them?
I think we've played it enough now. I mean, we obviously would have liked to play it more, but we had injuries. We've played it enough now that some like statistical tendencies and stylistic tendencies have started to emerge with it, where we can understand the strengths and vulnerabilities of that lineup, which is really what you're trying to do when you're switching lineups anyways. I think we know that pretty well about small. Like when we go small, which we haven't done a lot lately, but we kind of know that like the back of our hand at this point. We know how we want to play. We know what works, we know what doesn't, and we know kind of what our strengths and vulnerabilities are, which allows us to utilize that, situationally based on what we know about it. And we've invested a lot of minutes since Chet's been back to try to learn that about those particular types of lineups, and that's starting to crystallize for us at this point, which is helpful as we come down the stretch of the season to just better understand our team. But those guys have done a great job. I think they've accelerated the growth of that lineup because of the approach they've taken to it.
Just a quick follow-up on that. Do you have a threshold for how much you want to see a lineup before you make a verdict on it, so to speak?
There's no there's no verdict point. It's like it's an ever-evolving understanding of anything, not just a lineup, but a player, your team, a lineup. Every single data point is just more understanding of it. And then what's hard about that is that it changes over time. So you're gaining more understanding over time, but they could also be improving, or it could be plateauing. So we're just trying to stay very open, but we're never really. It's never time to draw a conclusion on a player or on your team or on a lineup, because there's always new information coming in. So we just try to stay very open and try to see what's right in front of us, as objectively as possible.
K-Rich is shooting a career best 40% from three. Kind of what does that do for his game and your offense overall?
K-Rich, yeah, he's been great. And he's shot it pretty well. It's not an outlier. He's shot it well the last couple of years, even though, what was he last year? He was like 30. Yeah, he's pretty good last year. He was really good 2 years ago. So I think a great example of someone that, shot selection, he understands what his shots are, and he's ready to shoot them, and he'll shoot them under any circumstance. And he really doesn't get loose with that. He's very, very predictable on the shots he'll take, and he's very predictable on the shots he won't. And I think that gives players confidence. I think when they're going in there and every shot is a decision, it's a little bit harder. But he's created a predictability to his game that's allowed him to be very consistent and put a lot of work into that. His free throws this season have spiked considerably after a period of time where he was struggling there. So he's just a guy who's done great work, and should be really proud of the player he's turned himself into. He's obviously had high impact for a long time, but he's really made himself a very potent offensive player.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
guys really shut down when it snows here. It's crazy.
Mark, have you ever compared Dwayne this season?
That'd be funny.